In our Health Watch this morning, can you believe this? More than 14% of the food we buy in this country ends up in the trash. Not only disturbing, but it's also a lot of money, and it's sounding $43 billion of wasted food. But there is a magic little device that could actually save you money and eliminate so much of that food waste. And you probably have one in your kitchen. Say hello to your freezer. Used properly, turns out it could save you up to $600 a year just by cutting down on all that waste. So here to help us with some tips on what to freeze and how, nutritionist Cynthia Sass. Great to have you with us this morning.
Thank you.
And it turns out you can freeze almost anything. There are a couple no-nos. I'm guessing lettuce probably doesn't freeze real well.
That's true. Very watery vegetables don't do so well in the freezer. You shouldn't really freeze canned foods in the can. You can't freeze,
I would hope not.
You can't freeze eggs in the shell, but you can freeze eggs out of the shell.
Oh,
so
okay.
Nearly anything else is on the list.
So pretty much everything else is good to go. There are some general rules, though, you say. I know one of them is make sure your freezer is set to 0. Yeah,
and you know what? You really want to get a freezer thermometer, which you can buy at any kitchen or home store. Throw it in there and check it every once in a while. The second tip is, believe it or not, a packed freezer is more efficient than a half-empty freezer. So some people will take milk jugs, fill them up with water, put that in the freezer because all of that ice in there really kind of acts as insulation.
Okay.
So the freezer doesn't have to work as hard if it's really full.
And then you probably cut down on your risk of freezer burn, I'm guessing, if it's not working as hard.
Absolutely. And then the third thing is invest in a Sharpie because you want to label everything. It kind of becomes a black hole.
And label it really carefully, too.
Yes,
not
with the
just
dates and what it is.
Because sometimes things can look alike in
Absolutely.
the freezer, say an egg white and maybe lemon juice. You can't tell the difference
Right.
after a couple of weeks.
Big difference when you're putting it in a recipe, though, right?
There is. So when we are freezing particular foods, though, something I know that is tough for pretty much everybody is freezer burn.
Yes.
Do I just have to wrap things a million times? What's the best way to do this?
You have to wrap them very tightly, and then when you put them in a freeze-lock bag or something like that, you want to get all the air out. Some people will actually suck it out with a straw. You can also squeeze it out because what happens is if there's air left in there, water evaporates from food even in the freezer. So when there's air there, those ice crystals form from that water evaporating. That's what causes freezer burn, which destroys the quality of the food, destroys the taste of the food. So the key is really getting all the air out of the package.
And also I noticed I made my son's baby food, and so I would make these big batches and freeze it in ice cube trays like you have here, and then put it in Ziploc bags. But I would have to double and triple bag it.
Yes.
Is that really a good way to do it, or did I need a better freezer?
No, you can do that.
Okay.
Now, they even have those devices that suck the air out and seal it for you. They can be a little expensive, maybe $75 to $100, but it could be a good investment if you're doing something like baby food.
Or you could get the straw. You also mentioned we can actually freeze. It's summer season, of course. A lot of people are going to have some excess in their gardens.
Right.
Tomatoes. I would have thought tomato sauce, but not the whole tomato.
Actually, it's one of the easiest things to freeze. What you do is you take the tomato, you core it, you quarter it, then you put it in the bags, get all the air out, and freeze it just like that. When they start to thaw, the skins will basically fall right off.
Okay.
If you want to get the skins off before you freeze, what you do is you take the tomato, you submerge it in boiling water for about a minute, then plunge it in ice water, and the skins will basically fall right off.
Cut a little cross in it too, and it'll help you peel the skin off. Just
Good tip. Good tip.
When it comes to other vegetables, you recommend blanching them before we freeze them. Is that how the vegetables are that we get at the store, by the way?
Yes, they are. And what that does is a couple things. It preserves the quality and the nutritional value. What that does is it stops an enzyme that causes the maturation, basically.
Okay.
So it will basically stop,
stop it from sort of aging or going bad and keeping in those nutrients, which is
it would
key.
also cut back on freezer burn.
Which is huge, as we know. Herbs. I always seem to get too many at the store.
Especially
so
now.
Do I just wrap them up and throw them in?
The best way to do it is in the ice cube tray. You're going to chop them up, put them in the bottom of the tray, fill it up halfway with water, then freeze it.
Okay.
Then when it's halfway filled and it's a little bit frozen, fill the rest up with water because if not, they'll float to the top. So you want to kind of keep them in the middle of that ice block.
So we kind of pack them in ice. It's great for the herbs. You also, a lot of people freeze meats, obviously, chicken. You recommend freezing fish.
All kinds of fish are great frozen. You want to wrap it again tightly, and you really want to use that for quality purposes within about 2 weeks of freezing it, though.
Okay. And
so that label is really important.
Again, the labels. I agree with you on the importance of those. And fruit is great. Also great if you want to make a smoothie, just to have that frozen fruit ready to go.
Absolutely. If you have fruits like berries that you don't want to all clump together, you want to take basically like a cookie sheet, put them on there in a single layer, not touching each other, put that in the freezer for 30 minutes, then transfer it to a Ziploc bag, and that way it won't all become mush, one big block of
I love that
who knows
tip.
what.
The banana, can you freeze it in the peel?
You want to take the peel off and then pre-chop it. I love this for smoothies because when you pre-chop it into a few blocks, they basically separate a lot easier. And then you can just throw half of it in your smoothie.
Some great tips, some great money savers as well. I think my freezer is going to be a lot more full than it was probably this morning. Cynthia, great to have you with us this morning. For more tips on preserving your food, just log on to our partner in health coverage, webmd.com, and search for freezing food.